Welcome back. Today, we're going to zero in on a single sentence. Just one sentence, spoken by Japan's prime minister, that sent absolute shock waves across Asia and might have just redrawn the security map of the entire region.
So this is it. This was the statement. It was made on the official record in Parliament when asked about a potential conflict over Taiwan. Now, I know what you're thinking. It sounds kind of dry, maybe a little bureaucratic, right? But trust me, in the world of diplomacy and military strategy, this was a bombshell.
To really get why this is such a huge deal, we need to unpack some history. We have to peel back decades of policy and decode some very, very specific legal language that is loaded with meaning. All right, let's get into it.
For a long, long time, if U.S.-Japan about a Taiwan conflict, the official answer was, well, vague, on purpose. It was this carefully crafted policy called strategic ambiguity, and the whole point was to keep everyone, especially China, guessing about what Japan would actually do. And this chart really lays it out. Look, for years, even under Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, everyone in government knew the score. Internally, they all agreed a fight over Taiwan would be a massive threat. But publicly, they would never, ever say the quiet part out loud and make it official. The name of the game was to not poke the bear. So, and this is the most crucial part, this wasn't just some off-the-cuff remark at a press conference. By saying it in the Diet, Japan's parliament, it was etched into the official record. It was a deliberate, historic flip of the switch. The ambiguity was just gone, replaced by crystal clear intention. Okay, so the real power, the explosive force of this statement comes down to this one phrase: situation threatening survival. It sounds a little clunky, I know, but this isn't just descriptive language. It is a precise legal term, a tripwire that's baked directly into Japanese law. Yeah, this term didn't just appear out of thin air. It was specifically created back in 2015 as part of new security laws. Its whole purpose was to define the absolute worst-case scenario that wasn't a direct attack on Japan itself, and to give the government a legal path to actually do something about it. And here it is in plain English. This is the key. Invoking this term is what legally allows Japan to use its military for what's called collective self-defense. Basically, it means Japan can fight to help an ally even if Japan itself hasn't been shot at directly. It's a green light to jump in and help a friend. Now, to really understand how big of a deal this is, you have to see where this phrase fits into Japan's official game plan. It's not just some abstract idea. It's a very specific rung on a formal ladder of how Japan responds to threats. So check this out. Here is the formal 6-step process. It starts out pretty low-key, just watching things, then it ratchets up. The Prime Minister's statement took a potential Taiwan scenario and put it squarely at step 5. Not step 1 or 2, but step 5. And that is just wild. Think about it. It bypasses all the lower levels of concern and jumps straight to the legal trigger for war. The message is unmistakable. An attack on Taiwan wouldn't just be a problem nearby. No, it would be instantly classified as an existential threat to the survival of Japan itself. So, as you can imagine, the ripples from this one sentence spread out fast and wide, with huge, unspoken consequences that basically reshaped the entire political chessboard in the region overnight. The fallout really came in 3 powerful unspoken messages. First, by using a term designed for defending allies, Japan legally framed Taiwan as an ally. Second, and this is a big one, since the law applies to attacks on foreign countries, it was an implicit recognition of Taiwan as a sovereign state. And third, to China, this was a direct, in-your-face message: we will intervene. Now, a move this bold was never going to get a quiet reception. It immediately split opinions into 2 camps. Was this a genius strategic move, or was it an incredibly reckless gamble? So on one side, you have people saying this was smart, tough, 21st century statecraft. They argue that by making the consequences of an invasion painfully clear, you actually prevent it from happening. Many are pointing to the invasion of Ukraine as a catastrophic failure of ambiguity, and they see this as Japan learning that lesson and drawing a firm red line. But then you have the other side, and they believe this is like pouring gasoline on a fire. They're arguing that it backs China into a corner, removes any wiggle room for diplomacy, and actually makes a conflict more likely, not less. For them, this statement risks dragging Japan into a devastating war it might have been able to avoid. To really get to the bottom of this debate, we have to look at the final piece of the puzzle.
It all connects back to the very foundation of Japan's identity since World War II, the famous Article 9 of its constitution.
I mean, this is the bedrock of Japan's pacifism. And because of it, legally speaking, Japan's very powerful military, the Self-Defense Force, or SDF, is not technically an army. It's considered an extension of the police, with a mandate that is strictly for, you guessed it, self-defense.
And that is why this is all so controversial. It pushes the absolute limits of how you can interpret Article 9. Using a self-defense force for collective self-defense, defending somebody else, is an incredible legal and political tightrope walk. It gets right to the heart of what Japan is and what it's trying to become.
So, if this is so sensitive, why is there this growing push to just change the Constitution altogether? Well, it boils down to two very practical and very serious problems with the way things are right now.
Okay, reason number one is people. Right now, members of the SDF are technically civil servants. You know what that means? They can quit anytime. There's a genuine fear that if a war broke out, mass resignations could literally cripple the armed forces overnight. Changing the Constitution could make national defense a duty. And reason number two is power. Article 9 limits Japan's ability to form deep military partnerships. A revision would let Japan become a much more equal and active security partner for the US and other allies in the region. And that's really what this all comes down to. That one sentence wasn't just about Taiwan. It was the spark that lit a fire under a huge national debate about the future of Japan itself, about its very soul and its role in the world.
And that leads us to the final, profound question at the center of all this. Is preparing for war like this a necessary evil to keep the peace? Or does it open a Pandora's box, a door that, once opened, can never be closed again? That's the question Japan is wrestling with right now.